most altcoins are just at the beginning of their reversals. Everything is looking green right now. And if you are doubting yourself, or if you're wondering if you're too late to buy, you're going to have a much different opinion at the end of this video. So if you're new here, welcome, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about why we are just at the very early stages of this reversal. So first and foremost, if we look at Bitcoin dominance, where we are right now, this is your tell-all sign for altcoins. As we can see, we have hit about 66%, which was one of those fib levels we've been talking about for quite some time in our private Discord, as well as on YouTube here. So if you were subscribed, you would be following along with this move. But ultimately speaking, we can see that ever since we hit this level of 66%, Bitcoin dominance has dropped now to 61.7%, and that has made altcoins rebound. Altcoins have, of course, been led by Ethereum. Ethereum has surged over the last few months, and altcoins have slowly but surely followed suit. Now, there is a crucial level here that we are going to look at for Bitcoin dominance, and that is the 50-week moving average, this blue line here. Let me go ahead and remove this fib level. You're going to see that this blue line is what we need to be looking out for next, and right now it's sitting at 60.6% of Bitcoin dominance. The reason I want to highlight this level is because last time in December/November, we had the mini altcoin season. We were all super excited. Bitcoin dominance went from 61% down to 54%. This move here, but unfortunately, it found support on this 50-week moving average, this blue line. So again, I'm looking to see what happens here. Do we find support? Does Bitcoin dominance come back, or does it break down further? That is going to be a very interesting move. Now, the reason we are saying that altcoin season and the reversal that we've seen over the last week or two on altcoins is just the beginning is for the following reason here. Because if you look at Ethereum is at $3,600. Very nice reversal. But if we look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, the significance of this chart is quite telling, because if you look at it, well, yes, we've seen a nice rebound on ETH Bitcoin. It, reached some of the lows that it did back in 2019. But right now, we are at 0.03 of this relationship. And back at the peak of 2021, we were at 0.9 roughly. Now, for Ethereum to go back to that same relationship versus Bitcoin, we are talking about roughly a 187% move Ethereum to Bitcoin, which significantly speaking, Ethereum's price will have to go up quite a lot for this to match what happened in 2021. To explain this a little further, let me show you this. If you look at ETH Bitcoin in the bottom of April 21st, and we go to where we are right now, this relationship has gone up 70% for Ethereum Bitcoin. Now, if we look at Ethereum's price from April 21st, which is right over here, right around $1,500, and we look at where we are currently for the price of Ethereum, well, we are seeing that this is a move of about 130%. Now, again, remember that this ETH Bitcoin relationship went up 70%, but Ethereum during that time went up 131%. And that, to me, shows that as this ETH BTC pair, as Ethereum slowly but surely starts gaining dominance back on the market, well, we all know Bitcoin pumped and it's now at $120,000. So for the relationship to go back to similar 2021 levels, the price of Ethereum is going to have to skyrocket. And that is, of course, what we are speculating here. And if you look at some of the key levels for Ethereum, the next key level is going to be right around 3,800 to 4,000. That was the previous level back time and time again in March 2024, in May 2024, as well as in December 2024 when we had that mini altcoin season. So that's why it's important to continue watching Bitcoin dominance as well as Ethereum's price and correlating that to Ethereum dominance as well. Because if you look at Ethereum dominance, this one here is also a very telling chart where you can see by looking at Ethereum dominance that this has, skyrocketed from 7% back in the low of mid-April, and we're now seeing an Ethereum dominance of 11.4%. Now, of course, that's a great move from 7 to 11% in terms of dominance. But again, zooming out and looking at 2021 dominance for Ethereum at the peak, we were at 22%. So to get to that level, well, again, we have to have an Ethereum dominance of roughly 100% gain, which means that Ethereum needs to gain 100% of what the crypto market is right now for Ethereum. So again, that is a whole lot more appreciation for Ethereum, in my opinion. And that is why I believe that we are just at the beginning of this reversal. Yes, we've seen Ethereum go up 140% in the last 2 months since the April lows. Yes, it's looking very, very good right now, but I still think we're just at the very tip of the iceberg for this altcoin season. We haven't seen crazy moves just yet. We are finally seeing that all of the price suppressions that we've seen over the last 2 years or 3 years throughout this bear market have finally come to an end, and liquidity is slowly but surely rotating into altcoins, and it's all being driven by Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then large caps, and then your smaller caps. Now, if you are looking to purchase more coins, it is very important to continue looking at the markets on a day-to-day basis, because there are going to be dips in the market. That's inevitable. Even in a bull market, there are going to be days, there are likely going to be periods of time. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, where the crypto market actually retraces, consolidates before the next move. Because you have to understand that even in a bull market, yes, it looks like all green candles are going to be printed, but there is usually pullbacks, and those are healthy pullbacks, because if it goes straight up, it's likely going to come down as fast. So if you look at the previous altcoin season or the previous time Ethereum went crazy in 2021, I just wanted to highlight here some of the red candles that we see on this chart. This is in 2021. We can start in January of 2021, which is really when the altcoin season started. You can see Ethereum was at $600. It went all the way up to $4,000. When it hit $4,000, it dropped from $4,000 all the way down to $1,700, which was an absolutely crazy move. Definitely, people thought this was the bear market. Then it reached a new high of around $4,800. So you can see that, despite these crazy moves, there are smaller moves within the bull market ultimately. So when Ethereum reached 2,000, it dropped all the way back to 1,300, so on and so forth. So you can see that throughout, the macro trend of Ethereum going up from the January timeframe 2021 all the way to November 2021, you can see that yes, the trend is going up, but there are dips along the way. And ultimately speaking, on those dips is when you want to be looking at your specific coins. Because if you're buying at the top here because you're all excited that, the coin is making a new high, this is Ethereum, but we can also correlate that to other altcoins. If you're buying at the top here, you're going to panic sell when it dumps 50%. That is what you want to avoid doing. Now, if you look at altcoin index right now, something else very telling. Yes, we're obviously seeing a nice rebound in, the altcoin index. It is now at 41, and we were talking why nobody wanted to buy altcoins as it was a Bitcoin season. That was obviously the best time to do so. As I've said, we've been talking about this on YouTube in our private community. So if you want to join that private community, have a look at the first link in the description below. You're going to be able to see what I buy, what I sell, the market research that I do, the early plays that we get in, so on and so forth. That's the first link down below. Again, completely up to you. You're going to join a community of like-minded people, and we're all trying to make it together in this altcoin season. But going back to this, what I wanted to highlight here is that yes, we're seeing a nice reversal here for this altcoin index. But back in 2021, I want to show you how long we were in an altcoin season. So January 2021, when Ethereum really started moving, was right here. Now we can see that we were still in a Bitcoin season, but Ethereum started slowly but surely rallying. And it's not before really the end of March where we get into this altcoin season, and it's not before the end of June where we fall out of this altcoin season. So we were in an altcoin season for, 3 months according to this chart here. But ultimately speaking, we were in an altcoin season much longer than that, because throughout this pump, altcoins are going absolutely crazy, but we stayed above this indicator for 3 months. Now, if we look back in December, when everything was going crazy, people were super excited, Bitcoin dominance was going down, we can see that we really just were in this altcoin season, according to this index, for roughly 1 week. From the start of December to about the 7th or 8th of December is when we really reached the peak of this index. And after that, it went downhill into another Bitcoin season. So I wanted to highlight that no, we have not seen an extended period of time for an altcoin season based on this index like we've seen in 2021. And I do believe that that is going to come in the next few weeks or months as we get better global liquidity. And keep in mind that we are going to have a very interesting Q4, especially with quantitative tightening decisions and rate cut decisions. Now, to wrap up this video, if we take a look at a few altcoins that I believe you should be paying close attention to, we have Aerodrome here coming out with obviously some major news as a Base had their new chapter reveal over the last few days. They've revealed the Base app. The Base wallet has now become the Base app, and within the Base app, Aerodrome Finance, the biggest DEX on Base, is now fully integrated, which means people can go on to the Base app or the Base wallet and essentially trade any tokens that they may want directly on this app, all through Aerodrome. I do believe this is one of the best plays for Base. No, that is not financial advice whatsoever. Make sure you do your own research, because crypto is extremely risky and you have to be understanding of the risks before you get into anything. But if you look at Aerodrome Finance, it has been performing very well over the last few weeks. And if you look at it, well, it's at 90 cents right now on a weekly chart. It has just been, continuing to go up ever since the lows in April. If you look at it on a day chart, we are above the 200-day moving average, above the 50-day moving average. We're about to get the golden cross for Aerodrome. Of course, there's likely going to be a little bit more resistance on the way up here around $1. But ultimately speaking, as we've just seen, Ethereum is just at the very start of this reversal. I do think that Aerodrome is going to go to new highs as we continue seeing ETH perform well. So Aerodrome Finance is actually one of the ones we bought back in April, which again, market was going absolutely disgusting. Everything was going down. People were leaving crypto, but we were still in the game. And if we look at the Discord, the premium Discord on April 12th, we did not get the perfect bottom, but we still bought Aero around 45 cents. And right now, as we just looked at it, it's at 90 cents. So that's a 2x from that time we bought. Of course, you can't go back in time. You wish you could, but that has continued to be my prerogative over the last years, over the last months. As we've had dips, I do like to accumulate some strong coins, and Aerodrome was one of the ones we did buy in that April dip. Now, if we talk about another coin I do think is not breaking out just yet, we can talk about AVAX. This one here is at 23.76. There's definitely some resistance around that $25 or so. And I do think that this AVAX L1 is one of the L1s that hasn't performed as well as the other ones like Sui, Solana, BNB, and others. But I do think it's just a matter of time, and we haven't really seen that big reversal just yet. So keep AVAX on your watch list. Then if we go on to Ondo, this is another one that has done very well. We can see we've broken this trend line. We've had a disgusting last few months with Ondo hitting $2, going all the way down to 63 cents. We highlighted some key zones. It's back above $1, and Ondo is continuing to build some massive infrastructure for the future, all about global markets. And one of the news that they recently had was that BNB Chain, one of the most widely used blockchain networks, will soon support Ondo's suite of tokenized assets, including over 100 US stocks, ETFs, and funds to start. So as we can see, Ondo is continuing to integrate more and more chains, bringing more users on chain. And as we all know, Ondo is planning to bring tokenized assets to the masses with their global markets, bringing stocks, ETFs, commodities all on chain 24/7 for everyone to invest in. So keep an eye out on Ondo, as we've seen slowly but surely rotating into some of that reversal for Ondo too. So with that being said, if you are looking at a specific altcoin, I would suggest pulling up their chart on a TradingView. TradingView is a completely free platform you can use. Go on to Google, type in TradingView, download the app, or use it on the browser, and you're going to be able to see whether or not it has started to reverse, is still not doing a whole lot, and then you can compare that to Ethereum, compare that to Bitcoin, and continue monitoring Ethereum versus Bitcoin, as well as a BTC dominance. But with all of that being said, I do believe altcoins are going to have a massive altcoin season in the next few weeks and months. The amount of buying pressure on Ethereum right now is phenomenal. But with all of that being said, don't forget that there are likely going to be dips along the way, and it's not just going to continue going straight up. That is probably the best advice I can give you. But remember that crypto is risky and none of this is financial advice. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. About 70% of people watching this are not subscribed. So what are you guys doing? Do me a solid and subscribe. With that said, I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.